you and me, Ben, today. I'm excited about that because actually this whole kind of series of podcasts was born from me and you kind of sitting and chatting and being inspired by our conversations. So, how are you, man?
Conversations about anything and everything, man.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I'm doing all right. Yes, it's a good it's a time of transition in life. So I'm kind of excited for some new beginnings and kind of wild unknowns right now. Yeah.
Talk to me more about that transition for you or for the world, or
Uh,
what are you feeling?
well, the world is definitely in transition. Yeah, I think all these you and I go to a lot of talks and conferences and things, and I do find there is a big transition of people realizing uh, that we can't fix anything until we fix what healthy democracy looks like. So that's a transition, right? Like if we can't talk to each other with civility, then nothing else really matters because we're not ever going to agree on anything. But I think my personal transition is also just about like I'm about to be able to take the life in the UK test for long-term residency. So I
Ooh.
have to like play this tricky game of figuring out when I can do it before my visa's up. But I've been studying. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you have to, what you have to do, is it like a green card? Like we've all seen that film, The Green Card, right?
Yeah, and it's like you have to get. I mean, you don't have to get like super. I think you have to get at least 75% to pass the test. But it's the questions can be about almost anything regarding like UK history and stuff. It could
Oh, so
be
you got to swat up on the royal family and who's the
yeah,
prime minister and
it could be as simple as how long were the Romans in the UK, and it was like around 400 years, right? Like having some kind of dominance, and
yeah.
then, or it could be like who's the architect who designed like Westminster Abbey? And I think it was Christopher Wren, right?
Wow. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you're probably well clued up on all of that stuff. Anyway, you probably know more than me about that stuff.
I
I've
mean,
lived here all my life.
few of those. I mean, those can well, like Christopher Wren came up a few times in different questions because I guess he's an architect who designed several things,
Yeah.
right? Or or the Romans come up many times because there's still Roman ruins that you can see in London, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah, we've got Roman roads still up in Yorkshire and stuff. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
right. So those are things that still feel the presence of them today.
yeah,
So I think
yeah.
those kind of make it a little bit easier to remember. Yeah.
Interesting. Will you become a UK, like an official UK person? Like,
So that's what's interesting. So I don't know what other countries do, right? But so this one is if you live here for 5 years, then you take this test, the Life in the UK test. It's like national history test basically that other countries do. You pass
yeah,
that test, you pay some money, and then you're a long-term resident. So then you don't have to you don't have to have a visa anymore, but
got it,
you're not a citizen yet. But you
got
basically
it,
have the things. But then if you live here one more year and I think you can't be out of the country for more than like maybe 50 days, so less than 2 months total over the next year,
hmm,
so that they know that this is your primary residence, right? Then you pay another fee, and then I think that's it. Then you get citizenship and you get the passport.
wow,
That's
great,
technically do it.
great. Ah, good. It's good that you're staying because I know you feel really at home here. This
It's
is
nice here.
yeah, it is. It is a good country to live in. It is, particularly with all the chaos going on in the world right now. Let's
Um,
last time I saw you was at my awards, the P Awards, People Environment Achievement Awards, which was
that
super
was
cool. I remember leaving in a taxi and seeing you guys outside, just kind of just at the end of the night. So haven't seen you since then. So how was it for you?
Oh man, it was lovely. Yeah, it was just I just really appreciate like the whole spirit and the sentiment and the kind of holistic feel of the whole night. And I think people really appreciated that you had a real curation of the night, kind of for people to understand if they've ever been to like a dinner gala where you start out in one room and the host moves you. They say, okay, we're going to move everyone to a new space, right? And there's going to be some fascinating things there, and then we're going to move you to another space, and right. And so there's a real curation, and you're kind of giving direction to the people, and the people follow.
Yeah.
And people liked that, and I liked that, right? And it also expresses that there was a real care and a thoughtfulness on how you wanted the night to go, and people respond to good direction, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah.
that was very cool and unique compared to all these other things that like you and I go to. I was even at a dinner thing last night, and there was none of that, so
Yeah.
so I just really appreciate it. Yeah, and it was good to see make new friends, and see some old friends and stuff, and
Yeah, and you brought some really cool people as well. Actually, you brought there was a designer. I can't remember her name now, but she
oh,
has reached
Somi,
out. Huh?
Somi,
Somi, that's it. Somi, yeah.
yeah,
So
she really loved coming.
yeah, she was really sweet when in her email to me. Yeah, and you know what? It's really nice that you noticed that because the kind of event, interestingly enough, and I'm not going to speak about this for too long, but I think it's important for you to know that, as you know, we've got a bunch of ambassadors, and are the the kind of main partner. We've kind of partnered with in a big way, and I'm an ambassador. But one of the ambassadors, she was meditating, and she got this download of consciousness, and it was the inspiration for the P Awards. And so she shared the download with me. I think she sent me a voice message, and then we chatted about it. And so we really homed in on that and guided the event, or if you like, produced the event based on the information that was downloaded. And obviously we couldn't do every single bit down to a T, but we certainly worked to the best of our ability to make it as close to that as possible. So yeah, so I'm glad you felt inspired by it. And it is interesting, isn't it? People are happy to be led in one way or the other. And if you can lead people in a way that is wholesome and uplifting and loving and caring, that's got to be better than the crap that we're getting, led by in the mainstream
Oh,
media today,
exactly.
right?
Exactly, yeah, and it also keeps an event from becoming too dry, or just like conversations. A lot of conversations, even with people that we enjoy, can kind of have an arc to them, and
Yeah,
then and they kind of reach an end, right? And so if you kind of know that's the roller coaster of how sociality works, right? That you kind of read the room and read the audience and know that, okay, this is perfect time to kind of now give them some direction and refresh the environment into something new. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and I think
Nice.
people
That's
really
I love that. I love that. What I know we kind of had a little chat about what we were going to talk about today, and something you picked up on was just that human connection. And it's a big story at the moment, isn't it? This whole human connection. Like, I remember last week we had a conversation with our guest about, what even is it to be human.
yeah.
So this is a nice segue. It's like, okay, so if we perhaps understand what it is to be human, it'd be interesting to hear your take on that. And then how then do we create this human connection?
Oh, yeah. I think we overthink it a lot, right? Because we all have, especially as adults, and this is why I enjoy listening to children. Because as adults, we all tell each other, oh, we have missions to accomplish, we have responsibilities, we have, when you go into a room, you should be looking to network. You should be looking like, how can you be useful, or how can other people be useful to you? And that's very different than when we say, how can we just have human moments, and how can we just connect with people? So like when you enter a room where you think you're supposed to be networking, right? Like it took me a long time to really realize this too, to stop thinking that way and just enjoy people and learn how to just have a conversation without an agenda on your plate. And
Mm,
then then you establish some genuineness and a sincerity. And then, of course, if there's some kind of shop you want to talk and get to, then you can get to that place more organically
Mm.
instead of feeling like we all have an agenda, so we're all kind of using each other. And that's not what human connection is about. So I think as adults, we kind of overcomplicate, our connections, and think that it's like we have these missions first, and then we can think about connecting to each other. Yeah,
Mm.
and I
Yeah,
think
I love that. So I was with my daughter at the weekend, and we just got her this this hoverboard thing, the thing on wheels where you
yeah,
stand on it, and she absolutely loves it. And I took her down to we took her down to the field, and she's just kind of just hanging out on it. And there was a little girl just sitting watching, and I noticed, and she hadn't noticed because she was busy. And I said to her, I said, look, that little girl's perhaps wanting to connect or wanting to play or something. Why don't you go and say hello? And she looked at me. She's 9. She looked at me. Was like, oh, I don't want to. I was like, Vivs, you're really good at making friends. So I just left it at that. I didn't just didn't do anything. And then next minute I turned around and she'd walked over and said hello, and then they were playing together. And it was just like it was just that moment of the little girl wanted connection. My daughter was busy, but once she'd realized that there was an opportunity to do what she's doing with another person, it's like, yeah,
yeah.
this is even more fun.
Well, it is, and it can seem terrifying that first moment, especially if it's someone you don't know yet,
Mm,
right? Even when I was in a therapy session, that they asked me if making friends was easy or hard, and I said, well, yeah, brand new friends. Yeah, it can feel terrifying to be the first one to walk up to someone new and
yeah,
just start talking. And she said, well, that's my challenge to you this week. Walk up to a stranger or a couple of strangers and just start a conversation, right? And let me know how it goes,
yeah,
right? And I said, that sounds awful. Like that sounds really hard, But because someone gave me a mission, kind of, right, to accomplish in doing that, I felt more motivated to do it. And
yeah,
what's crazy is that it's just like the first line. As soon as you get that first line out and someone responds, there you go. The ice is broken.
yeah,
Like it doesn't that terrifying thing we do in our head is already kind of gone. And there you go. You're in conversation, but just that approach and getting a first line out for some reason can be, as a kid and an adult, kind of
mm,
scary. And that is a fascinating thing, I think, to wonder why that seems scary to us on its face.
yeah. What is it? Rejection? Is it like we're scared that somebody's just going to kind of
Probably. Yeah.
reject us? Or,
Oh, yeah. Worry we'll say the wrong thing. Worry they
yeah,
won't respond to us at all. Worry we'll
yeah,
be made fun of, or we be hard on ourselves instead of
yeah,
worrying about their response. We're like, oh, why did I do that? Why was that the first thing I said?
yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's I do remember those days back in the day. I'm less I'm less concerned about it these days, I guess, because you just
Sure.
become. But funnily enough, saying that, we live in the country, so I drive kids to school or to something, and I'll see neighbours, but there's nobody living directly next door. There's nobody walking up and down the road. We're not in a town. So funnily enough, when I go to London or something like that, it's like I'll suddenly see more people in within an hour than I've seen perhaps for a month in where I live.
Yeah.
And there is that kind of, but I think because I've got the respite and the stillness of living in the country and having that quiet space, I'm like, oh, there's all these people to connect with. It's like it's like a totally different thing. But I do understand that it's actually because I haven't had it for a while, so therefore it's like, oh, it's exciting, it's something to do. But
That's
maybe living in a city,
yeah.
it's perhaps a bit daunting that you're constantly seeing people all the time, and maybe you want to have a little bit of your own time and space and not want to connect.
That is something I love to explore, though. This difference between, like, people thinking that they need big city energy all the time,
Mm,
right? Or maybe because they're used to it, but it can be overwhelming. I've lived in many big cities, and I don't feel like I'm a big city person. Like my nature is that, but I live in London. I've lived in New York City. I lived in Los Angeles. Was even in Atlanta for a little bit. So these are all giant cities, and it does feel like it's very very hard to have alone time, truly alone time, just a calm and a quietness. When I lived in Copenhagen, which is a lot smaller in Denmark, you could even go to the rooftop of a building in the middle of the city, and the ambiance of the city is quiet.
Yeah.
There's a calm and there's a quiet, and so I definitely feel your point. I really like being in places and living in places that are quieter. And then when you want that energy, that kind of constant activity energy, and then you go and give yourself a bit of it in the big city, and then you're like, oh, okay, that's what this is. Yeah, I want to talk to lots of people now. Now I'm kind of in it, and you're like, and that was good. I got like my fill of it, and now I'm good to go back to having a bit more of a calm.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting, definitely. I remember, I think living in a city, maybe in some ways you're kind of forced to have to interact with people all the time.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't feeling particularly, I don't know, not 100% or something on my mind, or you know what I mean, I'd had a bit of stress or something like that. It's like you don't always want to. I certainly speak for myself. I didn't always want to interact with somebody because I was feeling a bit more raw, a bit more vulnerable, or a bit more edgy, or a bit more cross, or whatever it might have been. And that I think that whole concept is interesting as well, because actually often if you can let go of the armor or let go of the spikiness of that, actually the very thing that you need is actually connection, or some kind of interaction with somebody, which then softens that that self-perpetuating feeling, that where you want to cut yourself off.
Well, I think too. Yeah, to your point, I think it's also trickier in these big cities because we're surrounded by so much and kind of what do they call it, inundated by stimuli and stuff, right? Then I think people do have more of this kind of armor up, and being vulnerable is less okay in those kind of spaces. And I'm someone, I mean, I think both of us are, right? We like to kind of have those deeper conversations and be more explorative with people. And I actually find that it's easier to do that in the quieter places than it is in the big cities. In the big cities, I think people are, like you say, like people are used to running into a lot of people, having lots of conversations, but then those conversations rarely are long, and they're rarely get to that space where you can get introspective and get past the what do you call it? Just the kind of chit chat level of conversation, right? So that can be hard. It's like when they say you got more people around you, you've got more friends, or whatever, right? When you live in a big city, yet people are more disconnected.
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to somebody's post on Instagram. I think she was a nurse or some kind of mental health coach or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I'd never come across it before. And she was talking about, and I found it really interesting. She was talking about, in fact, somebody sent it to me. That was it. Might have even been, was it you?
Might have
No,
been.
no, it might have been. I'll tell you what it was about, and you can remind me. It was so there was this message that she was saying about, young people are blaming, or rather, the society is blaming the mobile phones and tablets
Mm,
and digital technology and social media for the fact that young people are suffering with what's described now as mental health issues, right?
yeah.
So, ADHD, neurodiversity, etc. A lot of it is brought back to the fact that people are spending more time on digital devices, right? And so, and what she was saying is actually, yes, the digital device is having an impact, but the bigger impact is the fact that young people are not connecting with each other physically, and therefore there is this connection that people are having online and through their phones, but they're not getting the physical connection, which is exactly what we need in
Yeah,
order for us to feel healthy and nurtured, whether that's mental, physical, emotional, or even spiritual health, which I definitely agree there is a spiritual body as well. And I just thought, wow, it was such a an interesting take, that it's not specifically the device or the content that is creating the unease within um, within human interaction. It's actually the lack of the interaction itself.
yes. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you can tell. Okay, like after, I think a great comparison is in these last 2 years since COVID started teetering off, right? So you saw live events disappear, like conferences, right? You disappear for about 2 years, and then they started coming back, and not everyone came back to them right away, right? But what you did see, because I go to a lot of them, is there was such a grace. People felt so much grace in being able to just be around people in person again, right? And see people in person they hadn't seen for a while, especially if they're not people that live locally to you, right? The people that end up gather and traveling in for something. That I've never seen people just more and more hugs and just more kind of intimacy, right? Then be like, oh, it's just so good to feel this energy, right? Like you and me getting to connect, have a hug, have a real face to face conversation. So there is no substitute for that, right? It's talking on online and chatting with your friends and stuff. And so I think the hard part also isn't just like the devices themselves. It's this idea that through technology, through social media and such, everyone gets an instant validation, right? You get people liking your thing, commenting on your thing, following you, whatever. It doesn't matter if you know them or if you've said a single word to them. It gives you a mental validation
Mm.
for whatever you're putting out there, and stimulates that stimulates us. That gives us just a little bit of stimuli, right?
Dopamine, yeah.
And then if it happens 100 times, and then a couple hundred times, and 1,000 times, it stops mattering, like whether you know these people who are like liking your thing. But it's giving you a validation, and
Mm.
that's sometimes what people think is all they need. Like that's a worthy substitute for genuine connection, and then it just creates like a feed loop of that.
Mm.
That's now your level of connection is that. And I saw a poll that showed how about 20-25 years ago, um, our sociality was about 25% of our time was around family, and about 20% of our time was around friends, but direct friends, friends we had know in person, right? And then you had like our work friends and church and things like that, right? We're next usually, and technology was way down, right, in the single digits, less than 5%.
Mm.
Now technology is 60%, and and family has now moved to about fifth place, where it
Yeah, it
was.
came it came above it came above family, didn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
So work friends is now number two. That
Wow.
we actually conflate. Not that we can't make some of our best friends through work, but in a lot of places, work friends can often be only friends as long as you have that job. And for a lot of people, if they don't have
Yeah.
that job anymore, they kind of lose a lot of those friends. So
Mm.
that's not quite as authentic for a lot of people as like family and direct friends would be. So you see the top two things now are, yeah, technology and work friends, and those actually usually provide some of the I guess less like potent forms of connection. But that's what people are leaning on the most now. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, it's a tricky one to figure out. How do we kind of get people back to realizing um, there is no substitute? We need to. This is why I give people hugs more than shake hands.
You are a hugger. I'm a hugger too.
I because I love getting people to realize like I am so happy to see you, or I'm really happy, or
Yeah.
even if it's a new person, I'm really happy to meet you. That just
Yeah.
having that connection is no substitute.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Do you do you ever feel like you you know there's do you notice when you are missing that richness of being with another? I don't, because I'm with my family, I'm with my kids and with my wife. You know what I mean? I don't actually. But funny enough, just the other day I was on my own. I can't remember why. I think I probably, yeah, I genuinely can't remember. And I was like, oh, this feels weird. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, I know what it was. I was in London actually, funnily enough, in a huge, big, vast place, and I had to be there on my own. And I was like, oh wow, this is a feeling I remember from not being in a relationship, whatever. And luckily, thank goodness, I don't have to feel that. But are you able to pull yourself up, or are you constantly enriched by company?
I mean, I spend a lot of time with my daughter. For example, she just turned 12. Um, so I mean, she is my anchor in life. Like, so
Yeah,
I I get a ton out of just spending time with her. Even if she doesn't want to talk to me, she's like playing something, doing something, even doing homework, right? But just being physically next to her and sharing in that physical presence is really nice. Like that
yeah,
alone provides you something, right? But
yeah.
I do feel I miss human connection a lot. Like I convinced myself I was good at remote working. I thought I was really good at remote working. Yeah, I'll just work from home, do the Zoom call stuff all the time, right? And there is a comfort in that because you can have more flexibility in your home life, and especially with a kid, and right. But I realized once I started, going back into the field, at events and things, like when I went down to Cannes and helped out with events during Festival de Cannes. I realized that I actually uh, was fooling myself. I am not actually that productive and functional just working on my own and working my own. I need to be around people, both in a work way and a social way.
Mm, mm,
Just I
mm.
missed it more than I realized, but I also realized I'm also not as like functional, you know, just being by myself. So yeah, like I've had multiple kinds of reminders that I need more personal connection in person, and I haven't given
And
that.
do you do anything about it? Do you actually take a kind of leap of faith to do something?
I have lately, yeah, actually, in the last month or 2 months, I've spent more time now making sure I commit to going to things, to being to things in person. Like for my work, I benefit a lot from going to different conferences and events. So I gave a talk at South by Southwest London, but I made
Hmm.
sure I went to everything during the week. I
Yeah,
don't usually
yeah.
do
And
that. I always,
thank you for inviting me, by the way. I wasn't
yeah,
able to attend, but appreciate it.
no, exactly. But like, of course, and but there's always a lot going on with those things, and it's easy to be like, I'll go do the thing I've committed to do, and maybe I'll hang out
Mm,
for a day, right? And you're kind of like, but I don't need to be there all week, and so I went all week, and then there was Rain Dance Film Festival, and I got invited to like a dinner, which was nice, but I only got invited to that because I was going to the things each day of the first 2 days, and then I did know some of the organizers, and they're like, "We'll come to a dinner too, since we're actually seeing you already in person. Yeah, 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 come to this thing." So you end up when people see that you're also engaged and they're physically spending time with you, then
yeah,
they also see that like, oh, you're here. Well, we're going to this thing. Come to this thing too, and you also miss out on that when you're
yeah,
not physically present.
yeah,
And so also that energy, it means a lot. It means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to most people, right? When anyone just out of the blue invites us to something, right?
mm,
Hey, would you like to come? Because that's personal. That feels very personal. That they identified you, that they wanted to invite you specifically, right, for some reason, and that always feels really nice. And
yeah,
it's hard to get that when you're not putting yourself out there and engaging with people. Right?
yeah. It's so true. I remember when I went traveling when I was much younger in Mexico, and I ended up traveling, on my own from Tijuana to Mexico City, and then getting a bus to, right over to Chichen Itza, which is a long way, and stopping, various places in between. And I remember I'd just kind of, book into some traveler type resort, some hut somewhere, low
Hmm.
budget, get up in the morning, go and sit in breakfast. You just get chatting to somebody, could be a couple, could be a single person, whatever. And you get chatting and be like, oh, where are you off to today? I'm like, oh, I don't really have any plans. And like, oh, we're going to so and so. Why don't you come? And he's like, yeah, why not? And like that level of freedom was just amazing. And you'd end up going on these amazing adventures. So that reminds me sweetly of that. So anybody that's thinking about traveling, that's listening, if you go on your own, you are much more likely to meet amazing people that are,
Yeah.
that are doing similar things. And then the other thing I'm reminded of as you were talking was raving, like going raving back in the day. I'm 55 now, so like, I was there when the 88, 89, 90, 91, 92 transition from football hooliganism to loving abundant, ecstasy driven raves was the transition point. And I remember those times that everyone was just so I can't even put a word on it, just kind of so connected through music and dance and
Yeah.
the way you dressed, and the community aspect of it. It was just so amazing. And we literally kind of lived through the week in order to get the money together to go and be back in these raves. And it was a thrilling time. And I also remember the transition from that. I remember that I think the police really clamped down on people, more than a certain amount of people getting together. They called it like a riot or an affray or something, and so people had to stop clubbing in fields, and then it all got kind of homogenized, and you had to go back to the nightclubs. And I was like, wow, this is so unfair, because that was one of the most heartwarming experiences of my of my
Yeah.
transition from child to adulthood, was being in these places that was totally free, when you're in nature and partying. And then it was just, yeah. So I'm just reminded of that. It's like wow, yeah, these were hugely transitional times.
But I love it that you've had those experiences too, because something I love about when we talk about nature and people feeling like, we're, or not associating that we're part of it, is that people have also utilized nature as a safe space to meet others, right? And to have gatherings, and to share music and things like that, even in communities where it wasn't safe for them to meet otherwise, like,
Yeah,
right? But out in nature, they would find safe spaces for them to do so. And music is the universal language. That's what's something that's so awesome about that too, is you can enjoy music when you don't even know what they're singing about,
yeah,
right? You can listen to music in other languages that you don't know and still find a way to connect with it and be moved by it and want to dance with it. And yeah, like that's something that's what's great too. So then, if you're traveling, that also means you can enter into a community, and if you're welcomed in and join a party, right? That also means music helps also make it that much easier to just join in and be welcomed.
yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Is one of the things that we're doing with is, there seems to be a collection of artists, kind of as you saw at the P Awards. So, Antonique obviously has performed with us at various events that we've done, and then Rachel Singh, who's a new up and coming artist, but just has this real pure quality of, I think, bringing prayer like into kind of into music, and bringing people together through the power of that prayerful essence of music. And it's something that we're really exploring. It's like, how can we help to support people in them raising their consciousness? Because it's a bit arrogant for us to think we can raise consciousness, but how can we support people in them raising their own consciousness? And of course, music and events are a huge part of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, and if you give people that chance to have that, in an uninterrupted way, right? Then, yeah, then I think you see people open up to to their spiritual side, and to open up to be that it's okay to be vulnerable also in those spaces, because I mean that's what prayer is really great about. Even regardless of how someone prays, right? That those are moments when you can give up some of your vulnerabilities, things that are weighing heavy on you, right? And like so those environments also help, I think, kind of alleviate some of those pressures, where that it's easier to do that.
Yeah. Have you ever done a five rhythms, which is like a kind of ecstatic dance?
I should,
Oh
because
man.
this already sounds very cool.
Yeah,
What is
it's amazing. So I've only ever done like one proper guided one. I was in India in Goa recently, just last year with our family, and we all went. And you start there's a kind of real process to it. So there's a guide, like you would have a yoga teacher or something like that. There's somebody
yeah,
guiding and holding the space, and then you kind of start on the floor, and then the music comes, and it's relatively sensual, soft, but very rhythmic type music. And then what you're invited to do is move when your body is like, don't move from the head, but move when the body feels like it wants to move, or your spirit wants to move, or you know what I mean. It's not like guided by the head.
yeah,
And then eventually you start moving. You might move on the floor, and eventually you'll come to your knees, and eventually you'll come to stand. And then the music transitions from
yeah,
this kind of building and building and building and building, and then eventually you get to this point of what's described as ecstatic dance, where you're just totally free and like just really, but you're doing it with others. Like there's a
yeah,
group of you, and then what happens is you end up kind of getting into a dance with somebody, and then you're vibing from each other, but from a space of like it's really difficult to describe, because you're not like you're not going to a club and you're not trying to hit on
no,
somebody or
no,
anything like that.
I
It's
understand that part though. uh, when you just start connecting with other people in the room, right? Or even just one other person, and you don't you're not like partnering up in a dance, but you start to kind of uh, mirror each other's movements, so that
yes, exactly,
it
exactly.
becomes a shared moment in the dance. Yeah, even if you're not doing anything formal together as like dance partners. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've had moments like that, because I love to dance, where it's just creating a connection, and you're not really changing anything else you're doing, all right, or they're doing, and it's just now, and other people can start to kind of give you space, even when they see that,
Yes.
okay, there's a like a partnership going on.
Yeah, exactly that, because you start to mirror, and yeah,
Mhm.
kind of vibing is like the best word I can
Yeah,
describe. But it's actually like you're beginning to, I don't know, like share that whatever that magic is, you're beginning to share it. And that's the thing. I think the thing that we're talking about is, how do we how do we collectively bring ourselves back to that energetic connection, where we're sharing and honoring and respecting and loving, and even dancing in the energy with others, rather than what you described as, what can I get from this person, like what's the agenda that's been totally lost. And you know what? Maybe with AI and this kind of digital creation that we've co-created is going to come in and sweep up a lot of the jobs. Um, Maybe we will have time to reconnect more deeply with each other, and
well,
you
that's
know
part of the big question.
explore relationship.
Yeah, I've found that to be one of the biggest questions moving forward, right? Is if technology gets to a point, and it's already progressing there, right? Because it already is able to accomplish certain jobs and things um, that are replacing people. But if we get to a place where technology is able to do the essential roles, the jobs that we consider to be essential for infrastructure, right, and for society to function, yeah, I appreciate that question of would that get us to a place where we can spend and focus more time on just connecting with each other and feeling less like our social dynamics have to be largely transactional, and we can actually give ourselves these kind of moments, because what you're talking about, I think, really only happens when we give ourselves first a meditative start, where like the kind of yoga classes I appreciate are when the teacher just says, just focus on the breath first. If you even just want to stay in child's pose, that's fine.
Yeah.
But focus on just finding a calm, focus on your breath, right? That's more important than anything else. And so I love people that focus on that, because that's what we need as a starting point.
Yeah.
Let all that other stuff of like, you need this and you need that, and you need to be useful to everyone, and everyone needs to be useful to you. Like, just let go of all that for a bit. Just enjoy some human presence, and just find your breath and calmness, and let that other stuff wash away, at least for now.
Yeah, it's so
Right.
true, so true. I mean, that's how I was trained. I was trained by a really good yoga teacher that actually always talked about the foundation being the beginning. So the first point is literally the breath. Until you can really, really just focus solely on breathing in and breathing out, then you're not going to be able to experience yoga, because yoga is the union of connection, right? And people think yoga is the asanas, it's the
Yeah.
physical practice, but it's not. Yoga is the
Yeah.
union.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and finding our breath. I love it too when I find someone that apparently isn't into yoga and meditation, and they think, oh, the whole breathing thing. That they almost kind of make fun of it. And I'm like, right, but think about, you don't have to be into yoga. Think about when you are in a panic, or you feel like you need to be in a hurry. What is the best medicine that helps bring you back down? It's breathing. We forget
Breathing.
to breathe, or our breath gets like it's all quick, and we're not actually feeding ourselves anything, any oxygen. Like, even when my daughter gets upset or frustrated, the first thing I do is I say, just close your eyes. Let's just breathe together for a second. Try and slow down your breath, and then you can get the words out, and right, and think of like what's bothering, what's really kind of frustrating moment, and that always seems
Yeah,
a useful little practice of it, just
100%,
back.
100%.
Yeah,
I think that's a good place for us to maybe stop this week's show. I'm interested where you are, Ben, because you've got some interesting noises going on in the background, and I think
oh,
anybody listening will be like, what are those noises? I definitely want to know what they are.
it's someone trying to create Foley sounds. No, I'm just kidding. That would be awesome. If they're like, oh, create bag wrapping up sounds and stuff. No, I'm staying at a temporary place in the city because I've been having to go to a lot of stuff. Yeah, so I'm like in Shoreditch in London. Yeah. So
Cool.
people are moseying around doing their things.
Doing their thing. Lovely. Okay, got it. That's perfect. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you this week, Ben. It's been nice that you and I have got to have that intimate chat that we do when we're together. But actually, for it to be recorded and for everybody else to have a listen as well. But thanks so much for showing up this week, as always. And this is unscripted and untitled, so we don't know what we're going to talk about. We just go with the flow, and we'll be back
Anything and
again.
everything.
Yeah, anything and everything. Well, listen, brother, enjoy your week. Have a beautiful time, whatever you're up to,
You too, man.
and I'll try and do the same. And I look forward to seeing you this time next week.
Oh, you too. Thank you,
Bless you,
God.
Ben. Thank you, man.
Bye.
Bye.